Okay, welcome everyone. I am going to get rolling in probably a minute or two. We'll let some of the stragglers kind of filter in for tonight and then we'll kick off. So I will be back in about 2 seconds. I'm going to fill up a glass of water. This would be a good time too if you want a little snack or a bit of a drink to go and grab one yourself. And we will start at about 8:03. Okay, that worked really nicely. We doubled the attendance just by waiting a couple of minutes. So it's almost like we've done these before, right? Um, First off, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. This is the U12 and U13 town halls. So if you are brand new to CMSA, welcome. If you are a wily veteran, well, it's nice to have you back. And we know that you could be literally anywhere in the world doing anything tonight, and you've chosen to spend some time with us to have a conversation about what to expect with the U12s and 13s this year, and also what CMSA is trying to do from a maybe more global perspective, and really the tasks that we're trying to accomplish as well. So we want tonight to be a conversation. We don't want this to be just a one-way presentation, although you will notice that you are muted and your cameras are off. We do that so that we can preserve some of the integrity of the stream and not bog down basically my Wi-Fi that's powered by a bunch of hamsters with where I live. So we want, like I say, to have a conversation. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please put them all in the chat, as Melissa has already indicated. The Q&A we will not use tonight, and we want to keep it all centralized in that chat. So initially, already a question, where and when do we pick up jerseys? Well, you get that from your clubs. So your club should be contacting you with where and when that happens. And if you have questions about that, reach out with your clubs. We will go through a lot of info tonight. And if there's questions that Melissa can't answer, Melissa is our operations and membership manager. I know I've screwed that up, Melissa, so my apologies. Basically, Melissa is the one who handles everything off of the field and really is the straw that stirs the drink. So Melissa is a not only wealth of information, she's also an incredibly caring and thoughtful and insightful person that I truly enjoy working with, and it's lovely to bounce things off of her and to continue moving the game forward with her. So she's going to be managing the chat tonight, and we're really, really lucky to have her on tonight. So without further ado, again, lots of the questions that are coming in, we will answer here right away, I promise. So welcome, and I want to pass along a land acknowledgement as well tonight. And in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. CMSA's mission and vision is really quite simple. Our mission is we're dedicated to working with our member organizations, our clubs, to develop, organize, and promote opportunities which allow all participants to achieve their full potential in a safe, meaningful, and inclusive environment. And our vision really is around elevating and uniting our community through soccer. And you're going to see a common thread tonight around that vision and mission. Okay, you're going to see things about World Cup activations because the FIFA Men's World Cup is coming this summer to Canada, and CMSA is going to play a big part in bringing together in terms of uniting our community, but also elevating our community in terms of the quality of our delivery and the quality of our club's delivery. Our values that we expect to live by on a daily basis, and honestly, if we aren't, we expect to be called out on that, are around leadership, stewardship, integrity, excellence, and communication. And again, you'll see those common threads and those pillars amplified tonight and exemplified by hopefully myself and Melissa. And if we can't meet that mark, then we'll make sure that we reflect on that and look to improve. So my name is Jordan Stewart. I'm the CMSA Technical Manager. I come from a playing and coaching background. I do not pretend to be a referee. I don't referee, but I do have some of the other kind of aspects of the game crossed off. I've worked with players from U4 all the way through to university age players, and prior to CMSA, I was the Alberta Soccer Regional Coach for Southern Alberta and the Alberta Recs Director. So in my portfolio centered around player development, around district outreach, so supporting organizations like CMSA in trying to push the game forward, and also in coach education. I've got experience working literally top to bottom and with everything other than professional first team football here in Alberta and through Canada through either youth national team development systems and youth national team camps, all the way down to my daughter's U4 group this summer. So that and everything in between, I've kind of seen it and lived it over the course of my career to date. I always think it's really important to acknowledge the place that we're coming from and acknowledge the work that's been put into the game and really try and celebrate where we've come from over 2025. So here's a quick video, really our year in review video that I hope you enjoy and kind of sets the scene of where we've come and where we're going to be going.
For each player, every season begins the same way. A ball, a field, a dream. But what is built here goes beyond a single game. Every pass, every drill, every moment of effort, it's momentum. Momentum that pushes youth forward, that shapes who they are, that builds the player on the field and the person beyond it. From the youngest learning the basics to the oldest leading by example, there is opportunity here that builds momentum beyond the game. Our impact is measured not just in numbers, but in the lives we touch. Teams form families. Coaches become mentors. Players grow into leaders. Referees build confidence. And a community comes together, united by the love of the game. Momentum isn't just what happens on the field. It's the doors we open, the barriers we remove, and the belief that every child deserves a place to play. As we look ahead, we carry that energy with us. Because what we're doing today sets the stage for tomorrow. The effort, the teamwork, the passion. It all builds momentum for what's next. This is more than indoor and outdoor soccer. It's the start of something bigger. We're building tomorrow. One moment, one opportunity, one game at a time.
And that's really how we feel. We feel like there's an insatiable momentum and this unstoppable force that's guiding us towards tomorrow and guiding us into this outdoor 2026 season. And really at the center of everything is the player at the end of the day. So I want to make sure that we start tonight by talking about the player journey and what that actually looks like to really frame your expectations and also give you some knowledge in trying to navigate the soccer system. And so what you have here is you've got the Canada Soccer player pathway. And you'll see here that lots of your kids probably existed to begin with within these kinds of ages, right? Your active start, your fundamentals, your learn to train, and they move up through this diagram. Some may have entered here for the first time or entered here. Entry point doesn't really matter, but the key piece is to understand this, is that CMSA operates at stages 1, 2, 3, and 7. Okay, so if I was to make one big red box, that's what CMSA does. Okay, what we don't do is we don't operate in stage 4. And stage 4 is really about the APDL, and that's operated by Alberta Soccer and the National Youth Club license holders that I'll talk about in a moment. You'll see these little triangles that denotes players flowing in and out of these areas and in and out of these stages pretty freely and pretty frequently. You'll see here as well that there's an opportunity to flow through into professional club academies like the Wild, the Whitecaps, and the Cavalry in this city, and then also flowing up into Wild, Whitecaps, Cavalry, and youth national teams. And then all the way up, if some of them are really lucky and they've got exceptional talent and work incredibly hard, etc., into professional first team football and into senior national teams. Here denoted by the big maple leaf up top. You'll also notice that win is mentioned in one box only, and that's up in senior first team football. Nowhere else is it talking about winning. And I want that to be really, really clear. Okay? There's also other opportunities in this city around the Alberta Premier League, which formerly was League 1. There was USL2, UWS, NCAA, U Sports, college, etc. that really this city has got exceptional pathways into. But hey, if that's not for you or your child, no problem. There's still competitive and community Soccer for Life streams operated by CUSA, Calgary United Soccer Association, and the Calgary Women's Soccer Association that really the old timers like me can go and kick a ball around and try not to get too injured on a Saturday night. You'll notice that it is quite free flowing. The diagram goes left, it goes right, and it goes up. The only way it does not go is down. And why? Because we can't Benjamin Button or time machine this and really become younger. Really, you go down as you start coaching, right? You go back and you give back to the game and you try and grow the game again and inspire the next generation of players. Or you begin refereeing or administrating, or as a board member in the clubs, as a sponsor, as a donor, etc., to give back into the grassroots game. And what is framing all of this player pathway? Well, framing it is long-term player development. And that was released in 2008, 2009, and really it provided guardrails and a framework by which soccer and sport was to be operated by. Since then, Canada Soccer is currently refreshing it again, but it's really influenced the Canada Soccer grassroots standards. And we'll get to that a little bit later tonight. But I want to set the scene that this document, this 2-page document, plus the additional explanations and definitions, really set the scene and provide a really robust framework for clubs and districts to be operating against. And so locally, that helps to inspire our CMSA program handbook that we produce seasonally and give it to the club so that they can base their registration packages off of it. What I would ask you to do is maybe to review your club's registration information and compare it against the program handbook. And is it accurate? Is it aligned? If it's not, maybe ask why. Maybe ask what the incentive is to not align. Maybe ask the motivation of why it's different. Because what we're trying to do is to follow the grassroots standards to a T, as closely as we possibly can right now. And I'll give you an example of how we're doing that and what we're trying to do. The other piece, along with the grassroots standards and LTPD, that really frames how the clubs operate and how the clubs are helping to develop your children, is around club licensing. And what club licensing is this is a staged approach that Canada Soccer has launched that essentially allows clubs to move from very basic standards to very difficult standards to adhere to and meet. And so I say the word stages very, very intentionally. They aren't levels and they're not better than another. There's stages that clubs will go through. And CMSA is exceptionally proud that every single one of the member clubs has achieved a club license. And so for our national youth club license holders, there's over 140 criteria that they need to be satisfying in order to achieve that license. That licensing level then grants them access to things like the APDL, and it also grants them access and their players to MLS homegrown status. So any male player that's in that club can then be signed into an MLS environment and not be a designated player. So they're not an import. It opens up the opportunities to professional football for many male players. Now, someone's going to say, well, what's the benefit for the female player? Well, the female professional infrastructure hasn't been built out robustly enough when club licensing was built. But I promise you, this is now a consideration that's going into the club licensing framework. We also have our standards for quality soccer, or SQS holders, that have to meet 30 plus criteria on being a good club and adhering to basic standards, both operationally, technically, governance-wise, financially, so that really we can try to have a metric to say these clubs are here and some of these clubs are here, and how do we support clubs through those stages to keep progressing. There are 2 levels of club licensing in between these two called MA1 and MA2, and the standards and requirements increase gradually with each of those levels. We want to be really clear as well around what is CMSA's responsibility and what's the club's responsibility. And we always get lots of questions around when is my practice schedule out, or where are my jerseys, and those kinds of pieces. So I'm going to spend a moment really talking about what CMSA does. And from a scheduling standpoint, CMSA organizes all the matches in your season schedule, which you now have access to and has been released. We do about 5,500 to 6,000 games per season, and there's two women in the organization, Laura and Kim, that do exceptional work and literally lock themselves away in a room for weeks on end to try and get that done. Your club organizes all of your child's team practices and training sessions. So we don't know when you're training, where you're training, etc. That is all on your club. And I can guarantee you that after the season schedule has been released, your club is now rejigging some of the practice schedules to then release to you. So please be patient with them, and please have some empathy that this is a massive piece of work to try and set themselves up for success. In terms of team placements, CMSA works collaboratively with our member clubs to put all teams in the most fitting division. I'll chat about that in a little bit. I was like, do I chat about it now? No, I'll chat about it in a little bit. Your club places your child onto a team within that club. Okay? We don't do any sort of player placements, evaluations. That is purely a club function. In terms of a coaching standpoint, CMSA puts coaches through formal coach education and coach training. Okay? It is up to the club to find, retain, and develop the coaches. CMSA does not allocate volunteer coaches or does not find coaches for the clubs. That is a club function and a club job. And if there are any coaches on the call tonight and you're not getting the development that you should be getting at your club, and when I say development, I mean more than sending out a curriculum and giving you a bag of balls at the beginning of the season and saying all the best, we'll see you in 6 months. You need to find a different club. That is simply not good enough in today's age in terms of trying to develop coaches. We know that the coach is the most vital person in the entire soccer ecosystem, that and the player. And the coach is really the architect that designs the environment, sets the social climate, and supports the athlete's development. So if your club is not developing you as a coach, you need to be asking serious questions and you need to be contemplating finding a new club. In terms of jerseys, CMSA provides all of the U7 to U9 Shane Holmes Grassroots League jerseys for clubs who order them. Now, there are clubs that opt out of this, so it is really dependent on the club. If you have a child that's in U7 to U9, you don't need to come to the CMSA office to pick it up. Your club will get the jerseys, your club will allocate them and disperse them as needed. From U10 to U19, all of the jerseys are coming from the clubs. Okay, we don't handle any of that. So I hope that clarifies a good chunk of the questions that usually come in. And yeah, we'll keep rolling. I talked briefly about club licensing, and so SQS, I'll start there. Okay, what that's done is it set minimum coaching standards for all coaches, and this has taken some time to get full adoption and to get moving. But what it is it's a modified safe sport roster and a full safe sport roster requirement. And I'm going to talk tonight about what the full safe sport roster requirements are and why that is important. What it is what you're seeing on your screen. We expect all coaches, whether you're a head coach, an assistant coach, a junior coach, a developmental coach, it doesn't matter. All coaches to be adhering to these standards. You must have a valid police clearance that is current and done through CMSA. We get teachers that say, hey, I've done one through the CBE or Calgary Catholic School Division. Can we just submit that? No, we want one done through us. They're free of charge as well when you go through us as a coach. We need our coaches to do respect in sport activity leader that addresses bullying, abuse, harassment, and discrimination in sport, and gives coaches tools to deal with that. And then we expect them to be doing a theory course on how to coach and also practical courses when they're working with a learning facilitator and a professional coach to give them more tools in their toolbox to enhance and increase the learning within their sessions. And they'll either do learn to train or soccer for life, depending on their age and stage that they're working with, really. Then they're going to flow through and flow down into the rest of the safe sport courses and the rest of the safe sport roster, which is the NCCP making ethical decisions, NCCP making headway, which is around concussions, that's just undergone a refresh from the people that are actually local to Calgary, Dr. Catherine Schneider, who literally wrote the international consensus statement on concussions. So coaches should be getting world-class information and direction on preventing and dealing with concussions when they happen and if they happen. They also do an emergency action plan. So when or if there's a major injury on the field, how they respond and who does what. And then also around understanding the rule of two and rule of two training so that athletes aren't left in vulnerable one-on-one situations and we can have the safest sporting environment possible for them and for the coaches. And so really, what are these? Well, it used to be in CMSA that we would have this. We would have coaches do a police clearance and do their respect in sport. Well, now we've increased it significantly. And someone's going to be thinking, My goodness, that is a lot of work for someone who's volunteering. You're right. It is a lot of work for someone who's potentially volunteering. But what we want is an incredibly high quality sporting environment. And if the coach is that important to that experience, then it is a non-negotiable that we have both high quality people in terms of character and competence working with our children. It is no longer good enough to just put one person from the club on every single roster and say, we meet the roster requirements. No, no. All coaches are going to need to do the required training, and they need to do these things before they even get a coach's card. So we've controlled what we can control, and we don't actually issue coaches cards anymore unless the coaches are meeting certain standards. So they won't even be eligible. And really, the clubs are held accountable as well to do what's right, not what's easy, and their willingness to adhere to these basic standards will determine their longevity in the game. It's that simple. And so some coaches on the line might be thinking, oh, I got to do my practical session. Well, here's when they are, okay? You're looking either Learn to Train or Soccer for Life. You'll notice a plethora of dates that are available in red for this season, and we will add additional dates if the demand shows us that we need to add more dates, okay? Coaches usually ask us too, well, we need additional resources. We want more because they're curious and they're invested and they're great people. Well, we produce a technical culture series that is a series of webinars that we bring in national and international experts to speak about certain aspects of coaching or the game or child development or youth psychology and really try and bolster their knowledge in an informal basis. And I want to highlight one in particular, this one from Chris McCaig that's available on our YouTube channel. This is vital for likely all parents and coaches because your children could potentially start interacting with agents. And alongside FIFA, that has just produced a parent guide around working with and dealing with agents, Chris McCaig, who is a licensed agent, he produced an absolute masterclass in terms of the questions parents should be asking, the regulations that you need to be following, and also trying to sort out who's a FIFA licensed agent and who is an absolute crook. Because there are a lot of crooks that operate in this space. So, key pieces. Players cannot move confederations before they're 18 years old, unless their parents move countries for non-football reasons. So what does that mean? Well, that means when someone approaches you or your child and says, oh, your child's quite good, we'd love to send them to a trial in Germany, Romania, Spain, Brazil, Hong Kong, doesn't matter. What it is they are exploiting you. It is soccer tourism, and they are sending you on a soccer trip. Don't get confused. This is not a formal trial because the clubs know that it can't be a trial as well. So they might be going over for a soccer experience. This is not a trial because they can't sign the player. Okay? I want to be really, really clear about that because you're about to enter ages when the predators start lurking. Okay? There's also other pieces around the Accelerate Her Children's Diploma. So if you are a female coach and you're operating programs U13 or lower for your club, a phenomenal opportunity for you to get involved with the Children's Diploma, free of charge, and also a $500 travel voucher, and really accessing world-class education where other confederations and countries are starting to look at Canada and go, what are they doing? Because this is going to sound crazy, but Canada actually operates maybe one of the best grassroots programs in the entire planet. Okay, so these standards, the club licensing, the coach education, everything like that, apart from the cultural disadvantages that we have, we genuinely have a world-class grassroots system. Now, it has warts and bumps and bruises, of course, like everything does, but it is setting literally the international standard. There's a question there that are the technical culture series open to everyone or just coaches? They're open to everyone and anyone. We send the invite to the coaching database, but when we record them, we put them all up on our YouTube channel. Okay, so any of the ones that the speakers have been generous enough to share and say, yes, record it and put it up, they're all available on Calgary Minor Soccer's YouTube channel, completely free of charge, and you can access them anytime you want. Okay? I said that I would talk about how the schedule was made. Okay? So how does the schedule get made? Well, step one is team entry. So what happens is all of the clubs put in all of their teams. So in whatever age group and whatever division, they dump them all in. And we sift through them all and try and organize them all. Then what we do is we bring all of the clubs into the room, all the technical leaders into a room. Literally, almost every single club is represented in that room. From Canmore to Foothills to Southwest to Mac United, they're all there. Okay? And we sit down, we talk with them. And we say, here's the divisions that have been formed. What do you think? Who needs to maybe drop down an entire age group because their team is very young and that's a better home for them? Who needs to be age advanced? Is this division too big? What do we need to do with these? And so this year, a lot of questions came about around, well, we registered for tier 4 or tier 2, and our team got put into tier 3. I want to be really clear about this. What the club did is they said, oh yeah, we'll take your tier 2 registration. But the club literally has no control over where that team gets placed other than their input at the Club Connects and at that league alignment meeting. So what they're doing is they're really trying to sell you something that is outside of their control. And then what they do is they'll throw CMSA under the bus and they'll say, well, CMSA is the one who created tier 5 and tier 6, and they put you there. No. Let's be really clear. Things like tier 2A and tier 2B are really just masquerading the fact that the clubs don't want to have honest and hard conversations with parents. What they want to do is they want to hide behind nomenclature and say, well, yeah, you're in tier 2, but really tier 2B is tier 3. So what did we do? We said to the clubs, our survey results show that parents want more meaningful games and more competitive leagues more often. So what did we do? We looked at the data, we looked at the leagues, we worked with the clubs, and we said, these teams shouldn't be in that league anymore. So we moved them down, or we moved them up. And then what happens is we get smaller divisions that are a bit tighter that should produce more meaningful competition. So this isn't an ego hit for anyone because they've gone from tier 4 to tier 5 or we've built out a tier 6. There actually should be about tier 7 and tier 8 because if I think about myself, I'm probably a tier 87 golfer. And that's okay. I'm probably a tier 63 swimmer. That's okay. The label doesn't matter. What the goal is to have meaningful competition between teams as often as possible. And so we've had to work with our clubs to shrink those division sizes to get more meaningful competition more often. Okay? What do we do then? Well, we finalize the divisions after we work with them. We send it all back out to them, and then they give it back to us and say, oh, we forgot this team, or this team needs to move here, blah, 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 blah. And we finalize that. Then we start to produce the schedule. And by we, I mean Kim and Laura, really. And they compare the division sizes with the field permits that we have that are constantly changing. Okay, so someone's going to say, well, why can't we play Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock every single week? There's soccer fields everywhere. You're right. You're right. There are soccer fields everywhere. We don't have access to all of those, unfortunately. And our field permits can vary week to week based on the city's processes and historical booking rights. So we might have that field on the 1st and 3rd and 8th and 10th Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So it's virtually impossible for us to schedule a consistent schedule for everyone across 56 or 6,000 odd games a year. Okay? We try our best. And we try our best when we're building that schedule to also manipulate it so that there's an even home and away and that the divisions are as close as possible. The U12s are all based on community fields. Well, what does that mean? That means that your club actually holds the permit that they're scheduling the games on. So we will say, hey, needs to be on, I'm making this up, Thursday night. And the clubs will compare and see where their permits are and go, oh, we've got this field on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Boof, that's when we're going to schedule the game. And then they piece it in for the U10s to U12 age groups. U13s is different. That's CMSA's scheduling and CMSA's field permits. So you will see variation within that. Okay? Then what happens? The schedule gets released and everyone says, well, we're going to do 15 tournaments this year and we need to reschedule all these games. Well, okay, then we take in these rescheduling requests and we do the best that we can to reschedule the games. Now, keep in mind, our summers are getting hotter, potentially smokier. We're waiting for a locust invasion at this point. That all impacts what that schedule is, and then it piles on those reschedules as well. So we start in as utopian a scenario as we possibly can, and then typically it devolves from there, unfortunately. Okay? I hope that gives some clarity around the scheduling. I also want to talk briefly just about conduct, okay? So we have codes of conduct for our coaches, of course, right? That makes perfect sense. We have codes of conduct for our parents. We have codes of conduct for our players. I'd encourage you to find these in our rules and regulations and give them a read, because really this is what we evaluate behavior against. And I'll leave you with this image in terms of a conduct expectation, because all of us now on the call tonight are champions in terms of what appropriate conduct's going to be and how we're going to be positive sporting parents and positive role models within the community. Because we're going to set the standard of what's acceptable and not acceptable. So if we're yelling at young referees, if we're abusing coaches, if we're starting fights outside of facilities, we're not living the values that we should be, and we're definitely not adhering to certain codes of conduct. So it's up to us to bring that to life and to develop a really positive sporting culture. Because really, if you choose to do the other piece, you really just end up wrestling with a pig, and the pig loves it, but you just get covered in you know what. Okay? So I'll leave you with that. Part of how we try to support positive sporting environments and proper conduct is through the field marshals. You've probably seen them or been one on your team and on behalf of the referee. Really, you're working with the referee when you're a field marshal. You'll see them designated by an orange armband. And really, it's to try and control and help support the referee, control the parents on the sideline and support the referee. Because we're not tolerating any abuse towards referees. It's just not acceptable. We've got zero tolerance policies, which I'll touch on in a minute. And really, we want to be encouraging parents to cheer, not critique. Okay? That would be a key takeaway for that. And so when we think about zero tolerance policies for refereeing, okay, it's reportable by any person. There is a link on our website that you can fill out the form, and we will follow up on this. It allows referees also additional powers to essentially take timeouts in matches and say, no, this isn't right. I'm not doing this. Or to just completely walk away from the match, and the match actually gets abandoned and it doesn't get replayed. Because you wouldn't believe the number of emails that I personally or CMSA gets on a seasonal basis of a young female referee that walks away from a game in tears because some idiot has been yelling at them all game. And so who are these young referees? Well, these young referees that you'll see or could see on a fairly frequent basis are those teal shirt referees. The ones with on their back that says first year referee. And I want you to keep in mind, this could literally be their very first time refereeing a proper game. What does that mean? That means they're going to screw it up. They're going to make mistakes. And we need to be really comfortable with that. They're going to cost teams games, and we're sorry about that. But there's a cry for two things in the refereeing world from both parent surveys and the clubs and what we want as well. We need more referees and we need better referees. The only chance we have at getting better referees is if they stay involved. That's the only chance. So, yes, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some disappointment. What I'm going to ask you is to keep your mouth shut. And if there are issues with the referees, there's a process to submit that through CMSA and through our website. And so how are we trying to develop better referees and more referees? Well, we're holding extra entry level courses, and we're also including female only courses to try and bring in women and girls into officiating. We're also launched She Can Ref with the CDSRA, which is a local referee development group. We've partnered with KidSport to launch Project Ref, where if there's financial barriers to becoming a referee and your child's receiving KidSport funding, they can go through this program and they will receive all of their education, their upgrading, everything for free. Because we want to make sure that refereeing is an accessible employment opportunity and potentially a career opportunity for everyone. If I would have known the kind of money that referees make compared to coaches, I probably would have chosen refereeing at a younger age. I spoke about the Teal Shirt campaign to identify new referees and to have them feel comfortable. And part of that is around the mentorship program and the mentors workshop that we produce. So we produce a workshop for all of our mentors to align how they are mentoring these young referees. And then all of these young referees get 4 mentorships in their first season, ideally at their very first game. So you might see an older, wily veteran of a referee stood on the sideline that's helping to support them. They are not refereeing the game. They are there to coach and mentor and support that new referee that's in the middle of the field. We also have free monthly education sessions for all the referees to come and take part, to be curious, to develop themselves. Okay, so we're doing a lot within the referee space to both bring them in and to also keep them in and help them develop. There will guaranteed be a moment, though, in this season when referees don't show up. What happens? Well, both teams have to agree on who's refereeing the game, and the game still gets played. The teams have the option to split it into 2 halves where someone does one half, someone else does another half. But the best part is ask your parents and the players' siblings that are present if anyone's a trained referee. Because if they are, get them to referee the game, get them to write their name on the game sheet, and they get paid. It's a beautiful advantage. People are going to say, how often does this happen? Well, we operate at about a 98% to 99% assignment rate. What does that mean? That means referees essentially get assigned to every single game and every single assignable slot, whether they're the center official or an assistant referee. What sometimes happens, someone gets a flat tire, someone's sick and calls in at 5 o'clock, and we scramble to try and find another referee. There are things that happen, and people do no-show here and there. But in terms of not picking up the assignment, it's incredibly rare. And we monitor the schedules daily, and we work incredibly hard to try and make sure that referees are at every single game. I'll speak quickly as well about another kind of global initiative for us is around Empower Her, which is our women and girls in soccer strategy and initiative. As I've mentioned, we launched She Can Ref with the CDSRA. We hold numerous female-only entry-level courses on a yearly basis, and you're going to see more Free Soccer Fridays that are female-only. And our latest one was on March 7th in honor of International Women's Day for 2026. We know that there needs to be more work done here, and that's going to happen over the coming 18 months, that there's going to be an even bigger concerted focus on the women and girls in the game. And so what is Free Soccer Friday that I've just mentioned? Well, it's a drop-in soccer opportunity really for kids to come in and play. It's an unstructured environment. And what does that mean? Well, unstructured means there's no adults there to screw it up. There's no coaching. There's no parents that are working with their kid, because if you want to come and work with your kid, go out to a park and work with them and bond with them there. We see kids develop brilliant social and life skills in terms of communication or advocating or conflict resolution at these events. And we find that it's starting to connect the community as well, both from business, but also within the game and across clubs. It's a beautiful event to come out and be a part of. You can click that or follow that QR code and click the link to get more info. But some of the upcoming dates are at the Maxwell Soccer Center on both April 24th and May 8th, and also May 1st at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, which if you were there last Friday, my kids called it the soccer party, because it was an absolutely beautiful, chaotic, expressive event that's got the music going, the inflatable pitches, and really a safe and great environment for the kids to grow and enjoy. Other ways that we're trying to break down barriers to soccer is around our cerebral palsy soccer program, the Goal Getters FC. And this is a name and a badge that's been chosen by the players involved in this. And we are letting them determine what their program looks like. We're continuing to see increased numbers and registrations season over season, and we're going to continue this program until I don't know, the apocalypse, I guess. We've bolstered it through offering a free adapted coaching course available to any coach within CMSA, and we accomplished that in March. And really what it is it's a four-way partnership between CMSA, Sockability Canada, CP Kids and Families, and Sport Calgary, where we have national leaders like John Clubb operating the technical side and delivering the program on the grass, and the other three organizations have their own role. So if you know someone that's got cerebral palsy or acquired brain injury, please encourage them, if they're a youth, to come and sign up for this. We are always accepting new registrations, and we're really trying to make sure that other people get included in the beautiful game. There's some phenomenal stories around this where we hosted a wrap-up party after the first season, and some of the parents said, "Thank you so much." And we were confused, and we said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, our kids don't even get invited to birthday parties. This is literally the first party that they're going to be invited to." They're ecstatic about being able to play at the Maxwell Soccer Center, formerly known as the Calgary Soccer Center, and they never thought that they could even be able to do things like that. So we're breaking down barriers, we're trying to get others involved, and we're trying to share the love of the beautiful game with other segments of society as well. Other ways that we're trying to develop the game as well is in our Soccer in Schools initiative, and we're delighted to have Cavalry FC through the Spruce Meadows Leg Up Foundation join and really be a part of this program. Cavalry participate through the school visits, where we go in for a week-long residency, and we really have three goals. One is to upskill teachers so that their phys ed module becomes better from a soccer perspective. Two, it's to try and also upskill and connect our clubs to the communities. And three, to ignite the spark within these children to both come and play the game and see themselves playing the game either at a professional level or at a recreational level, but to really begin to integrate and to become a part of the best game in the entire planet. And so some stats to date for you. We've been in 19 schools so far this year. We are going to be in over 42 schools. We're probably looking almost closer to 50 schools this year by June. So you can imagine how busy April, May, and August are getting, April, May, and June are getting, where we're going to impact about 15,000 kids just through Soccer in Schools and through the support of our member clubs who are in there coaching and delivering phenomenal sessions and having a great time doing it. If you are a team manager or a coach and you're looking for a few tournaments, here's a list of some of the tournaments that we have going on this summer. We've got the Papa John's Victoria Cup that happens over the May long weekend there. We've got the Cal Tire Calgary Cup that happens early July, and then also the Fall Series, which is a registration event as well, in early September and mid-September there. So I'd encourage you, if you're looking for good tournaments, to be included in there. From maybe a logistics and operations standpoint, we want to make sure that people understand the lightning and adverse weather policy, when really the key piece is down here on the bottom. It's when thunder roars, go indoors. So we're no longer seeing lightning and then counting until we hear the thunderclap to see how far away it is. We're saying if you even hear thunder, you get indoors. And what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a 30-minute clock that starts. That 30-minute clock restarts every time there's a new thunderclap. So we delay games a minimum of 30 minutes every time there's a new thunderclap, until potentially the game can't be made up and it is either abandoned or rescheduled at that point. Okay, so key piece, because we want to make sure soccer is a safe environment, and we do not want anyone getting struck by lightning while they're out enjoying a game of footy. We also have air quality policies, where you can look this up both on our website and through the Alberta Soccer policies as well. That's going to help protect young players, coaches, and spectators, where essentially, if the air quality health index is a 7 or above, you need to be thinking about the next steps. So we provide really clear guidance on what those next steps are through the CMSA policy that's located on our website. So I'd encourage you, if you're a team official or if you're a curious parent, to go and find that policy and make sure that you're acquainted with it. There's also policies around extreme heat, because we know our summers are getting hotter and there are heat waves that roll through Calgary. And really this is around modifying the games to make sure that it is, again, a physically safe environment for the players and for the coaches. And you need to note as well that if your games are on turf fields, it actually ends up being hotter, because the turf and the rubber crumb infill soaks up that heat. So you've got the heat coming down from the top and the bottom, and it really feels hotter when you are on turf fields. So you need to be checking, again, the CMSA website for this policy, but I wanted to give you a brief awareness of what this actually looks like, okay, and an awareness of how things should be managed. I am going to come up for air for 1 second and just see if there's any questions in the chat that need tended to. I see Melissa has sent me a quick text. There's a question about the Alberta games. I'm assuming that's the Alberta Summer Games that you're referring to, and information on how to participate in that. Well, all of the information was sent out multiple times through our email database, encouraging people to register for the trials. The trials have actually already had session 1 was last week. Session 2 is literally tonight for the boys, tomorrow night for the girls, and session 3 is an invite-only trial on Monday night. So the trial process has already begun. The coaches have been selected, and we are rolling quite quickly through that. Now, I don't want to suggest that that's the end and that's the door closed, because what we will do after the trial process is the clubs always hammer us based on the players that have been selected. And they say, oh, you've missed this one, you've missed that one. We say, okay, no problem. Bring them into the training sessions that are ongoing throughout the summer, and we'll have a look at those players. So unfortunately, you've missed the registration window for those tryouts for that, and the tryouts are ongoing. But if your club is going to recommend a couple of players that we might have missed or might have missed the registration, then we'll always have a look at them and make sure that there's an opportunity for them to be involved if it's warranted and if they're at the appropriate level. To give you some perspective on the Alberta Summer Games, it was for 2012s and 2013 athletes. We had over 200 boys registered and almost 100 girls registered for the trials. So massive population, huge turnout that is difficult to get through, obviously, with a couple of trials. And listen, you're not going to get it 100% correct when you're trying to work through those numbers in a short time frame. Probably our most important campaign is around the Fields for Our Future campaign, and really I wanted to provide a quick overview and why this is so important. Our current state essentially is that the indoor game is at capacity. We really don't have room to continue growing at the rates that we are. We're experiencing rapid growth in terms of our player numbers and team registration numbers. And all of the data suggests that there's about a 30% participation growth rate after the World Cup. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen in Canada, but this is what previous countries have seen, and we're concerned. We're concerned because we don't have space for these kids to play. And so this number here, 222 games were rained out. That was actually from 2 seasons, 2 outdoors ago. That was outdoor 2024. The number from outdoor 2025 was almost 500 games that were rained out or smoked out and needed to be rescheduled. So people will say, well, yeah, it's about the indoor game. No, this is about the outdoor game as well, so that we can have field houses and additional bubbles to guarantee year-round play and training space for players. Okay? We're also advocating for enhanced existing infrastructure to bring it up to modern standards to ensure that safety and playability is a top priority for these facilities. And also, we want to increase our collaboration with the city so that soccer's got an input in the design of these soccer spaces, and that there's proportionate access to these city-owned soccer spaces like Shoaldice, like the athletic parks, like the Maxwell Soccer Center. Okay? We want to make sure that we're at the table. So what is our ask of you? Our ask of you is to follow this QR code if you can, and join that movement and sign up as a supporter. Please share the campaign with your friends, with your family, because our voices are starting to make an impact at City Council and at other levels of government. And really a vital piece of this is around ensuring that the game plan funding is prioritized in the city's budget cycle. So there is a survey to provide feedback on what the priorities are for the city, and you'll get information and supporting resources through this Fields for Our Future campaign to be advocating to the city on behalf of sport and on behalf of soccer. So key piece, please do this if you haven't signed up. The numbers looked like this. There was about 2,500 supporters that have been incredibly vocal. That's out of a database of about 60 odd thousand. So there's tons of you on this call tonight that haven't done anything with this, and we need your support. So please help us out. Help get the kids a better facility to both play and train in, and help to secure these facilities for future generations as well. I would be remiss if I didn't speak to the FIFA Men's World Cup and what's going on there. And while I can't share a ton of details because there are press announcements scheduled, you can expect things, activations, events developed by CMSA. You can probably guess on what dates as well. And what that looks like as well in terms of blackout times and light scheduling on those match days for a certain country that would be very local to us, and it is not England. Okay? What this also means is an awareness for people on this call that this is going to happen. There's going to be coaches from England, Croatia, Qatar, Switzerland, it doesn't matter. Anywhere that's participating in the World Cup, Curacao for that matter, they're going to send in a request that they're going to want to reschedule their game that's playing at the same time that they want to be watching a match. We are not honoring that. And I'm going to be very clear right now, we're not honoring that. That rescheduling request will get denied, and it will be up to the clubs to play that game and the teams to play that game. We are here to support the home nation. We're not here to cater to the other nations, unfortunately, and we simply cannot fit in an outdoor schedule if we're constantly rescheduling based on a nation playing in a World Cup and some overlap in games. We've also provided clubs a grant and grant funding to be activating within the community, to be building out some programs around the World Cup, and to be really celebrating, again, in an effort to elevate and unite our community through the game. So you should be looking for that. And the other piece you should be looking for is this beast. You'll see this all over those events and activations. You'll see them at loads of our events. And this is our community cruiser that's from South Center Volkswagen. We're a massive thank you to our sponsor, South Center Volkswagen, for providing this vehicle to really execute all of these events and to be present in the community. If you're interested, please go and check them out. I've recently just leased an Atlas from them, and it is a phenomenal vehicle from people that are really supporting the soccer environment and ecosystem here locally. So if you're someone who likes to buy local and support local, look no further than these guys, because they are absolutely fantastic at South Center Volkswagen. Now, the likely moment you've all been waiting for in terms of what's the details and the actual info for the U12s and 13s. That's the goods. That's what we want. Well, firstly, it's presented by Acera Insurance, and we're incredibly grateful to our league sponsor, Acera, who I believe is also sponsoring a tournament as well with us, or potentially. And if I'm speaking out of turn, I'm sure the marketing department will slap my wrist tomorrow. But really, really grateful to Acera Insurance for sponsoring this league and to supporting youth soccer in Calgary. I said I would speak to the grassroots standards and what this document is. Well, we'll dive in a little bit here. What we did at CMSA is we need to see where we are compliant, where we're not compliant, what doesn't even apply to us, and where we need some dispensation and we'll need maybe an action plan to go forward with this. And so we evaluated ourselves. I would ask you to ask your club to see if they can produce an evaluation like this and see where they're at in terms of their own programming and adherence to these grassroots standards. I could imagine a lot of you will be shocked, unfortunately. But we work with them and we try to support them and we try to move the game forward. And so here on this right-hand side is the key column that you need to be looking at. We do not control how many practices to match ratio that there is. You'll see here a number of 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. So when your club's pressuring your children and you to be out on the road and training 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week in structured soccer sessions, I hope you can show them this document and ask them why they're not aligned. If they want them to train for 3 hours, I hope that you'll show them this document, ask them what's going on. I want to show things as well where we aren't compliant in terms of number of match days per week. We end up not compliant there because of all the reschedules, because of the weather, because of the tournaments, because of whatever, that the schedule often gets backloaded, unfortunately. We start at a place as close to 1 match per week as we possibly can get, okay? But we often end up not compliant, and we'll hold our hands up and acknowledge that. You'll also see areas that field size is not compliant. Why? Because we can't offer 9-a-side on the indoor season on that field size yet. So we're not compliant. You'll also see pieces here where we aren't compliant on match day roster size because we adhere to ASA's rules around their match day rosters and the total squad roster size of 20 players. You're seeing here a maximum of 18 players. So there's some work to be done there. Okay, there's work to be done. You can find this either through this webinar that will be recorded and put on YouTube, or the U10s and 11s, the 14s, the 19s, etc. Okay, the other page, the second page that you saw. Well, what's going on there? You'll see loads of this is not applicable to CMSA. This is all club function to train coaches. It's up to us to make sure that the coaches are trained and trying to make steps towards that, okay? But it's not 100% applicable to CMSA. You'll see other pieces, and I really want to zoom in on this. This is key. You'll see fair playing time for all players. Coaches should target a minimum of 50% playing time for each player. And guess what? That's even in U12 and U13. And someone's going to say, well, the U13s have provincials though. Yeah, you're right. You can still get there by giving kids 50% minimum playing time. This is easy stuff. You'll also see things, players try all positions. And sorry that this orange warning sign is there. Players should be rotating positions. If we're asking kids to specialize in a position already, we're failing them. We are failing them. We need to give them a diverse sporting experience and to keep them involved. We also need to get them on the field to develop. You'll also see things around open rosters. Okay, open rosters will come for the U13s. It's in place at the U12s, and I'll talk about what open rosters are. You'll also see things here. Teams cannot be formed using tryouts or other similar evaluation methods, and that goes all the way through. Our clubs are nowhere near that right now. For some reason, our soccer ecosystem cannot get across the line about how we can evaluate players and how we can place players and find an environment for them. Well, guess what? Tryouts aren't needed when you have open rosters. You just involve the child and you figure out what level and where they're at and what's a good environment for them without tryouts. Our club technical leaders should be good enough to have a look at a player in a couple of training sessions and go, they fit in here. They're about a tier 2, tier 3. And we're going to play them across those environments to see where it shakes out. Now, obviously, that's not the case into U13 quite yet, but there's a lot of cultural work to be done. So your kids are going to go through tryouts. Ask your club, how are you evaluating them? What experience do you have in talent ID? How do you measure performance when a child hasn't hit puberty yet? What are you actually measuring? Or are you just looking at kids and trying your best to make rosters and make teams work? Because there is absolutely no evidence around talent ID, talent development, talent selection, anything that supports like evaluating these kids at these ages and how that correlates to elite performance after puberty and better retention rates. There's simply no evidence that supports this stuff. But culturally, we need to have a lot of work to do. You'll also see a piece here, scores and standings. You'll see that we are not compliant. We're not compliant because the 13 still have public scores and standings for now. But you'll see in a moment what that's going to turn into. I want to be really clear about the 9-a-side, which is the format that the 12s and 13s will play, and what their goal sizes are. Their goal size is 6 feet tall by 18 feet wide. Here's a hint. If you show up to a field and it's a goal that is concreted into the ground, it was likely put there in the 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. It's not the right size. And if clubs are using that, let us know, because we want to have a conversation with them and try and supply them with the right resources and help them get the right infrastructure to be accomplishing this. So that that poor goalkeeper, that 11 or 12-year-old goalkeeper, isn't defending an 8-foot goal where they have no chance of saving anything. It also doesn't help the other team in terms of how they're scoring goals, because that's not the way goals are typically scored anymore. Goals are scored from within 18 yards, likely within 12 yards on 1 or 2 touches. Not hitting it first time with the kid who's got a really powerful shot from 30 yards out on a goalkeeper who can't reach the crossbar. That is not the goal. That's not the intention. Okay? So that's where we're at in terms of goal size. In terms of field size, you will see minimum and maximum widths. You will see minimum and maximum lengths because there is some variance across the city for this. And this is aligned to the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. And someone's going to say, well, why are the U13s playing 11-a-side in Italy, Brazil, I don't know, New Zealand, wherever? They play 11-a-side at U13. Great. Well, we play 9-a-side here because we believe that our kids need a smaller-sided game, because Canada Soccer has said 9-a-side is going to be a better format for development. And we've at CMSA led the transition to 9-a-side at U13 in this province. We've been doing this for years. We led the transition of the U13 provincials to 9-a-side. So I want you to ask yourself, who's actually doing it properly and who's actually out of alignment? Because everyone's going to say, well, we went to a tournament in Edmonton, they played 11-a-side. Awesome. I hope you had a great experience. Is it aligned? I'll let you be the judge of that. Melissa has informed me that there's a couple of questions in the chat, so I'm just going to pause there. Melissa, do you want to come off of mute and maybe just direct me to where is it? Is it this one here? Mentioned earlier, CMSA determines what tier a team is placed in. Why do some U12 clubs have more than one team in tier 1 to 3 with no teams in 4 and 5, and other clubs have one team in 1 to 3 and no teams in 4 and then teams in 5 and 6? Well, it's a great question. Well, multiple questions really. So let me address that one more time. Why do they have more than one team in tier 1 to 3? Their player pool might demand that. Why do they have no teams in 4 and 5? Well, they might not have players in and around that ability to be putting teams in there. So this is not about us trying to say, well, you've got 3 teams, so there's a first team, a second team, a third team. There's clubs that are getting quite clever at developing large pools of players where the floor is being raised. And they're putting a concerted effort on raising the floor and raising the ceiling at the same time, rather than just catering to the early developers, the maybe developmentally advanced, given their age and relative to their peer group. Clubs are getting very good at this, and they're starting to become much better. And I want to say some clubs, because others have a lot of work to do within this. The other piece that I'll address is CMSA doesn't determine what tier the team is placed in. CMSA brings the clubs together, puts them in a room, and says, right, where do your teams actually fit? We've worked really hard with them to shrink the sizes of the tiers, because a 26 team or a 23 team tier 2 does nothing but allow lots of people to say, I play tier 2. You know what it does do? And the data is showing this, is it actually leads to poorer retention rates of these players because they're not getting meaningful competition, and because the pool of that players is so diluted that it's leading to more lopsided games. So what do? We work with our clubs to shrink the size of that, which means that we repopulate the actual tiers that should have been there all along. Tier 5, 6, 7 should never have gone away. That's okay. If you're in tier 6, that's fine. You could be brand new to the game. You could be largely recreational. You might not want to train. You might play hockey in the winter. No worries. That could be the appropriate level for you to enjoy your soccer experience. So detach the ego from the label. Detach, the investment and the emotional investment from the label of what the tier is. That's a key piece. I don't know. There's something about shin guards. Do we have input? On the new soccer shin guards that the pros use. Do they protect the shins as well as the old type of shin guards? They are the calf compression sleeve with honeycomb pads for kids. Listen, there's a shocking and startling trend going through the game that there's waves of fashionable things that go through the game. And when I was growing up, it was like the Live Strong bracelets and the Say No to Racism Nike bracelets, a chain or something like that. That's what was fashionable. Spreading Vicks on the front of your shirt because Patrick Vieira did it and he was an absolute monster. The shin guards piece is something that's fashionably going through the game, and it's essentially when these kids are putting shin guards that are the size of chicken nuggets inside their socks and calling them protection. As a parent, I'd be horrified if that was my child. You can look up and Google some of the injuries that have been caused when players are wearing these business card size shin guards. Now, someone's going to say, well, CMSA, it's up to you to legislate that and to have a policy around shin guard size. Well, what the IFAB laws of the game say is that it must provide a reasonable amount of protection. Reasonable is the same legal definition that decides court cases. So what's reasonable to one might not be reasonable to another. But what we do say is our match officials have the final say on player equipment. So if they deem that those chicken nuggets that are shin guards are not appropriate, they'll tell the player to go find something else. In terms of your question around the compression sleeve with the honeycomb shin guard, what I would be looking for if I was a parent would be something that has a hard plastic shell that also has a backing that will absorb impact. Because what you want is you want that force to be distributed and absorbed, but also not just have it be like a sponge that the force goes through it. Okay? That's the type of piece that I would be looking for. I don't know exactly the honeycomb pattern that it would be. I'm sure that everyone is looking to innovate and produce a new product and try something new. I would ask yourself, does it provide my child protection if someone is kicking them full force in the shin? You can use that kind of metric to evaluate quite quickly if it is appropriate or not. Okay? Okay.
So Jordan, Jim
Yeah.
continues to ask, why are there still way more teams in tiers 1 through 3? For example, tier 2 is 20 teams and tier 5 is 11 teams.
Melissa, do you want the honest answer or do you want the politically correct answer?
A little bit of both, obviously.
Okay. Well, I'll try my best to be politically correct with this one then. Here's a bit of the honest answer. The clubs are incredibly worried about trying to go back to parents and trying to say, you know what, your team's in tier 5. And they go, well, wait a minute. We were in tier 4 last year. Why are we in tier 5 now? Well, because we've shrunk the size and we've gone from a pyramid that's like this and trying to squeeze it back down so that it is more like that. That takes time, and that is not an easy process. Okay? That is really, really difficult. We've had amazing success. We literally celebrate with the clubs when we're able to produce a tier 5 and a tier 6 because that means that they are courageous enough to go and have hard conversations with parents and players for that matter and to say, "Hey, we're squeezing things and we're going to move you down." That's okay. Like that is okay. I think the other aspect of it as well, and you can look at it from numerous club registration packages, is that the clubs can charge you more money if you're in a higher tier. It's really that simple. So where's the incentive actually lie? And I'm not saying all the clubs are bad. I'm not trying to paint that picture. What I'm trying to say is that they're producing a registration package that probably goes tier 1 to 4. It probably doesn't include 5, 6, maybe even 7. And they're filling out what that fee looks like. Well, then we come in and we squeeze things along with our clubs, and it ends up that there's teams in tier 5 and tier 6. Why isn't there more teams in tier 5 and tier 6? Well, as I've said, it's a hard conversation to have with parents. It takes a lot of courageous work from clubs. And we have great clubs that will put their hand up in that meeting and say, we'll start tier 5. We know that this is right and we're going to do this. There's others that are quite cowardly. And this is the ecosystem, unfortunately. So while we continue to try and push and populate the appropriate levels and meaningful competition for players and for teams, this is a long process that is still going to probably take another couple of cycles through these league alignments to really try and get it right. So I appreciate the question. And if there's more follow-up, Melissa, feel free to shoot me another message on that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit. But Dave has indicated, that some of the clubs obviously have teams that kind of skip a tier. So say they have a tier 1 and a 2, and then they don't have a 3, but they do
Yep.
have a 4.
Yep.
And he says, there is quite a gap from the 4 up to the 2. And how did they navigate where their child maybe has been placed, who maybe would have been a tier 3 level?
Yeah, really, really good question. It's never easy, and you can imagine like when a club solicits registration and gets a pool of players in, they then go, okay, well, where are we, and where are these groups of players? So not an easy task for them to have a concrete answer that, if your son or your daughter, your child is at a tier 3 level, but they've been put in a tier 4 team. What I would ask the club is like, what do some call up opportunities look like potentially to go into a tier 2 game, but maybe a tier 2 game that they're playing against one of the weaker tier 2 teams that might be a like kind of tier 3 team in disguise. There are ways to really individualize the development and the experience for players, even if they are a tier 3 player that is in a tier 4 league. And I want to also be really clear about this, that a lot of our tier 4 leagues have become tier 3 teams that have moved down into that. So you're likely going to find a lot of same competition within that league because of how we've had to shrink from tier 2 downward. It's pushed some teams down. It might not look and feel and taste and smell like a proper call up system with a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, a tier 4, but that's largely based on likely the player population, both in terms of numbers and in terms of ability, and trying to find almost Goldilocks kind of leagues to put some teams in. What I would say is I would ask the club, like, how are they going to individualize the development and the season for your child as well, so that they're getting potentially what they need out of it as well. And I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, feel free to follow up and to continue to answer until it resonates with me and until I can get you a good answer. Melissa, I'm going to keep soldiering on here and keep moving. And if there is anything else, feel free to interrupt me at any point. What does outdoor look like? Well, it's 14 randomized games in a 9-a-side format that I've already mentioned, and there is a Challenge Cup at the end of the season for the U13s. I'm speaking specifically to the U13s when I say this around provincial qualification happens 1 through the league and 2 through Challenge Cup. And so what is that? Well, there's 2 pathways. The league standings for tier 1, 2, and 3, they'll qualify 1 team through league play. So the league champion goes all the way to provincials. Congratulations, you've qualified. In tier 4, 2 teams will qualify through league play. It'll be the league champion and the league runner-up. They'll also have a Challenge Cup, but due to the timing and the truncated season that we see in tier 4, it doesn't allow us enough time to have Challenge Cup winners go through. Okay, that Challenge Cup pathway that I'm talking about in terms of tier 1, 2, and 3, that second team that goes to represent CMSA and the district at provincials will qualify through the Challenge Cup. The Challenge Cup's a battle of the top 4 teams at the end of league play, so it's like a Final Four or playoff, and that champion will go to provincials. If that team is the same team that won the league runner-up will be the one who goes to provincials, okay? So that's how we've looked to build this out, to again have some excitement and a different developmental experience for these kids at the end of the season. When there are must-win games, how do we as coaches deal with that? How do we as players deal with either the elation or the disappointment? Maybe the elation of playing in the game or the disappointment of not playing in the game but winning. Like, how do we help to support our children through these moments and using sport as a tool to make sure that we are being pro-social and also putting our children first in terms of their development? It's not all about the result and the score. The league structure looks like this. For the U12s, they play two 35-minute halves in terms of their game with a 5-minute halftime in between. The U13s play two 40s in alignment as well to Canada Soccer's grassroots standards. We've said the U12s have no public scores and standings, and the 13s do have public scores and standings. You'll also there see your season length in terms of kicking off this Saturday all the way through into July either 12th for Tier 4 and lower, or July 26th for Tier 3 and higher. Okay? I've mentioned this in terms of the public scores and standings. That's a for now piece. We've outlaid a roadmap for the clubs in terms of when the public scores and standings will be removed. That could be as early as this coming indoor season, but a lot of this depends on what the conversation is around the U13 provincials from an Alberta soccer lens. How that shakes out and what we need to do then will largely influence what the 13s look like, at least in the foreseeable future. So if you're in U12 right now for this outdoor, maybe there will be no public scores and standings for you come the indoor season. From a referee expectations, from Tier 1 to Tier 3, you should expect 3-person crews at your games. And from Tier 4 and lower, it is a 1-person crew as of right now for the budgets and for the fees associated with that. I can speak to that in a moment as well. In these leagues, you are going to see this, guaranteed. You're going to see players that are age exempt to play in that league. Well, what's an age exemption? Well, formerly it was called biobanding, and it's a process where a player who is older can be age exempt into that age group. So it's really a tool to cater towards late developing players that biologically and physically aren't as mature yet as their peer group, but chronologically they're older. So you think about the little ones. Teams also and clubs also can use this from a social perspective, that if there are mental delays or impairments with players, that they can look to do this. There's also other aspects around, we see this, I'm a single mom and the only way my kid's going to be able to get to soccer is if they carpool with the neighbor who is a year younger. Well, we want to try and be as open and inclusive as we can to meeting that child's needs as well. So there's a process and a formal piece to this that the clubs submit development plans to CMSA, and we look to ask questions around those development plans with the clubs. The club should also be sharing this with you, and they should be having feedback meetings with you. And we're going to likely try to bolster what this looks like in the future. Our expectations are that the clubs are using this for the right purpose, that they're not using it to sandbag and bolster rosters with overage players in an effort to win. Because here's the best part. They're not eligible for provincial competition anyway if you're U13, so it really makes no difference, and it's actually like shooting yourself in the foot all season long if you do it. And really, it's detrimental to your players' experience and development. So those are some of the expectations that we have. You also heard me speak earlier about open rosters, which is a flexible player placement tool that allows the clubs to move players freely between their teams to make sure that they can play in the right games at the right time. And like I answered that one question, it doesn't matter then if the call-up system doesn't align perfectly, because if they are in Tier 3, they could actually play down into a Tier 4 game. That's a really tough game, and maybe they play in a different position to give them a different developmental experience. This is a key tactic to support non-linear development, and what that is it essentially means development doesn't just go in a straight line like this. It goes up, down, left, sideways, backwards, forwards all the time. This is available for the U12s. It's not yet available in the U13s, and there is a formal call-up structure within the U13s that's all available in our CMSA rules and regulations. Again, our expectations of the clubs is that they use this appropriately to really try and individualize and tailor the development of these children and meet their needs. We get asked all the time, Where does all the money go? Soccer is getting more expensive. Where does all the money go? Well, we're being really transparent, and these are our fees that we charge the clubs on a per player basis. You'll see that here, based on the age and the division that they're in. You'll also see here that there's an ASA fee of $10. Well, that ASA fee is inside of this fee. So what's left? What's left is this per player for CMSA to run programming, okay, and to do the leagues. What that boils down to on a per match day basis is here. So that's what the players pay, or parents really pay, on a per match basis, okay? Out of that $184 or whatever the number is that's associated with your child in there, this is where the fees go. And wait, actually, I'll pause for a second. If you think about it, our incentive is actually to have more players in these age groups because we make more money. But yet we're repopulating these tiers. So again, I want you to think about incentives. Why are people behaving the way they are? Where do the fees go? Well, league costs. The majority of that fee goes towards booking fields for games, paying the referees, and other league-related expenses, okay? There's a small portion that goes to help contribute towards future facility projects and upgrades, like the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome renovation to an 11-a-side FIFA Pro quality turf pitch, and erecting the Shoaldice bubble with the support of both Calgary Blizzard and Calgary Football. A portion of the fees go back as a donation to Kidsport, who fund soccer registrations close to, if not maybe even more, than $1 million every single year here in Calgary. It is wild the amount that Kidsport supplies soccer and supports families to be accessing soccer. The other pieces that I mentioned, Alberta Soccer and Canada Soccer, take some of that fee, and then a small portion helps to pay for the CMSA staff, the photocopier, the lights, etc. You know what I mean, the overhead there, to ensure really that Calgary Soccer is efficiently run and we continue to try and innovate and improve. Okay? This is going to happen. So you need to have an awareness about this. If and when an injury happens, you need to go see a doctor and get a doctor's note and a formal diagnosis, because you're going to need to fill out the form on Alberta Soccer's website within 30 days of that injury. What that does is that activates the insurance that you pay for. That insurance is included in these fees that you are paying for. Okay, so make sure that you access it because you're paying for it. What happens? Well, you have to use your personal insurance first, if you have that, and then Alberta Soccer's insurance kicks in after that personal money is run out. We know that some major injuries or bracing that you need or physio, rehab expenses can add up very quickly and exhaust that personal insurance money very quickly. So I would encourage you, no matter what the injury is, even a hangnail potentially, to be filling out that form. Okay? Woof, we've made it. We've made it. And in a couple of days, it all starts now. It all starts now with your support, with your children's involvement, with volunteer coaches, with professional coaches, with various clubs all throughout the city. It's about to kick off once again. And so on that note, I'll leave you with this.
All right.
And so what starts now? You saw all of those things: character, development, competition, friendship, fun, etc. It all starts here. And we know that we can pull this game and push this game really forward quickly if we operate on the right-hand side of this image. Because for far too long, we operated here with clubs going in all sorts of different directions, districts going in different directions, provinces going in different directions, and really making no progress quickly. But we've seen a major shift from this to this, and we are so excited to continue this and to continue working with our clubs and working with you to continue pushing and pulling the game forward. Should you need to contact us, please use the details that are on this screen. You can always visit our website. It has a ton of information on it, and it is about as user-friendly as we can make it right now, but always looking for suggestions as well to improve. And lastly, we want to thank our sponsor for the U12s in Acera Insurance. And please give us a follow as well across our various social media platforms where we produce both great content, but also educational content and pass around a lot of key awareness within the community through these channels. Okay, so I am going to stop there for a moment. I'll leave this up on the presentation, and I'll dive into the chat if there are any further questions that we need to address. So Melissa, is there anything else that's popped in that you haven't been able to answer?
Not anything specifically. I'm just trying to understand Sarah Paul's question, so that I can help her. Sarah, you're also welcome to connect with me tomorrow during the regular office hours, and we can dig into it a little bit. I'll just leave my email on the screen here in just a minute.
Okay, yeah, you can feel free to reach out, info at Calgary Minor Soccer. It's everyone says the info box of everywhere is a bit of an abyss. We try really hard to direct your emails to the right people within the organization. But yeah, Melissa has shared her contact info there for you as well to reach out. Thank you all again. I'll stick around for a few more minutes. If people are furiously typing some questions, more than happy to stick around and answer anything. But thank you so much for sticking it out tonight with us. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for the discussion. And thank you for being a part of the best game on the planet in the best city in Canada. So we really look forward to seeing you and your children on the pitch, and can't wait to watch them play starting on Saturday. So really happy to be supporting this game and to be working for all of you and for your children as well. Question. Oh, thank you for the praise. I appreciate it. I try my best. And you will always get an honest answer from me. So if you reach out, be prepared for honesty. You might not like it, but you will get honesty all the time. There's a question there. Do you feel the clubs are in alignment with shrinkage? I don't know what shrinkage is and what you mean. So maybe give me some more context around what shrinkage really is.
Jordan, I think he's referring to when you were speaking earlier about when we took the tiers and we spread them out. You kind of talked about shrinking that tier 2 down, so that we then created that 5-6.
Perfect. I was thinking about a different kind of shrinkage that is not as pleasant. Shrinkage in terms of squeezing those divisions. Well, what I would say is are they all in alignment or in agreement? Probably not. Probably not, because getting 100% consensus on anything is virtually impossible, especially in sport where opinions run rampant, and doing what best practice suggests is an afterthought most of the time. So when we talk about trying to do what's best, we're using data to try and guide these decisions. So, results, league tables, and also discussing with the clubs what kind of experience their kids are having. We also do year-end surveys where we look to see what kind of trends there are out of that season. And sometimes what we see is we see the following kind of data. When teams have had a rough season in terms of results, but they have an excellent coach who's completed all of their training, we see good retention rates there. So we know coaching is a part of this equation. We also see when teams have had a really rough season, but they've rated their coach quite poorly, we see low retention rates of those players coming back. So if we can mitigate one of those two factors, and we can't change the coaches overnight, what we can control a bit is that league placement. And so we can help to influence, hopefully, some of that experience and give kids a better feeling of success and of competition within the game at a level that is where they are for right now. And as I've mentioned, the incentives vary from club to club and from person to person in terms of why they would look to either not support smaller divisions. I mean, again, I want you to think about club registration packages and fees associated with it, but also the hard conversations that they have to have with parents who then lead to emotionally charged reactions and responses because it's what they feel negatively affecting their child. The vast majority of the technical leaders in this city are genuinely trying to do what's right for kids and are trying to support their development. With that, though, comes some pressure from parents to say, well, they need to play up. They need to be in tier 2 when really they might be tier 3, maybe even tier 4. So then what does that do? That leads to them caving to the pressure because guess what? You pay their wages and you put food on their table. Then they have to continue to try and spin plates and satisfy unrealistic demands and justify where they've put the teams based on that pressure. So we said to them, like, if you're not kosher with this, that's fine. This is what's happening because we believe this is what's right. And we have the support of, I would say, a vast majority of the clubs within this. Now, can you charge tech fees and academy fees and these other fees and I don't know, blowing up the balls fees for kids in tier 5 and 6? Probably not. That's a pretty tough sell job at that point. So, I want you to think about why maybe they wouldn't be aligned to making smaller tiers and to repopulating levels of the game that should never have disappeared in the first place. So I hope that maybe sheds a bit of light on that piece. Silence, crickets in the chat and everywhere else. Everyone else is waiting for the next question to come down and me to go on some 5-minute rant and diatribe of an answer. So if there are any other questions, please chuck them in the chat. Again, more than happy to hang out and answer any questions that you do have. And if not, and if it's quiet for a little bit longer, then yeah, we'll look to shut her down tonight and then look to again re-engage through email or through anything else. If you've got questions or concerns, crises, tumors to deal with, like we want to help. We want to make the game better and we want to continue to push it forward.
Can I just add a quick something? If
yes, of
there
course.
happens to be anyone on this call who is also a team manager for their team, we do have a team manager meeting tomorrow at 6:30 that is also online. If you haven't received the link can be found on our website, or send us a quick email tomorrow and we make sure you get one. That has a lot of really good information for what to do as a team manager.
Yes, I should have mentioned that. Thanks for putting that in there. That's a key one. Managers often cry out for resources and for information. So we look to try and support and supplement that that information. So thank you, Melissa, for filling that in. Where would I find if a club is meeting CMSA standards? Is this from CMSA or the club? Really good question, Kate. CMSA has got a membership affiliation that the clubs fill out on a yearly basis. And that is a a requirement, and it's slightly different than club licensing. So club licensing is administered through Canada Soccer and through the PSOs, so Alberta Soccer. Alberta Soccer are the ones who manage and administer the SQS, the MA1 and MA2, and then National Youth Club license lives with Canada Soccer. So what we have in terms of CMSA standards are that membership affiliation. Is there a way to find out if a club is meeting that? Yes, they're still a club and they're still involved. So they are meeting those standards, I would say, for the most part. In terms of a Canada Soccer club license, in terms of the SQS or the MA1, the MA2, the National Youth Club license, those clubs go through a renewal process. And the renewal process is different based on the stage of licensing that they're at. The National Youth Club license holders have to submit an action plan every 6 months on what they're working on and how they're working towards bettering things, whereas the SQS holders, I believe, get renewed every 2 to 3 years. So as long as they are still two things: one, a member of CMSA, but two, listed on Canada Soccer's website as what Canada Soccer defines a quality soccer provider, a QSP, then they will look to be meeting those standards, if that makes sense for you. If you've got more questions on that, I'm more than happy to continue that conversation. So please ask away. Much change between last year and this year. Team manager session. Yeah, thanks, Melissa. I appreciate that. Yeah, Tyler, you might be able to skip that one if you tuned in last time. But yeah, again, I will wait around until people say I've had enough of this guy's voice and the silence, and look to go and resume, I don't know, Survivor or Dancing with the Stars or whatever else is on tonight that fills some of the space. Any advice for navigating what a club advertises and what CMSA advertises for skill description? They don't seem to align. It's been very difficult to navigate Dev Plus versus Dev, competitive versus rec, and so on. Really, really, really great question. Key piece would be to compare what the program handbook that we produce looks like compared to what the registration package looks like from the club. And so we are very vocal advocates that players, no matter what their current ability, deserve access to quality coaching and quality programming within the club. So typically this is how a club has and maybe continues to structure their programming and their services. The maybe paid staff or your top coaches, guess who they work with? Typically the top teams. Well, what do the lower teams get? Well, they get largely probably a lower trained or lower certified or maybe newer coach to the game. So what does that mean? Well, that means the development gap continues to go like this as they get older and older and older. So what we have tried to advocate for is that things like Dev and Dev Plus with the U10s and the U11s are around interest. They're around passion for the game. They're around players and families who want maybe more soccer activities per week and a longer season and are more willing to travel citywide. But what it gets warped into is a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, right into U10 and U11, because that is the easy and the lazy way of organizing youth sport. The hard way is to use open rosters, to have training groups, and to be moving players and kids through those training groups and through those teams to individualize the learning and the development process for them. It's really hard, and it's hard work. And this is a major shift that's going to happen in the game. Some clubs also have difficulty managing their scale. You know, some clubs have 1 or 2 people that are looking after a program of a couple of thousand kids. you can't manage those kinds of initiatives over that kind of scale. So the resources in terms of coaching expertise and experience and licensing end up getting sucked to the top because honestly, that's where the most demanding parents are as well. And they say, well, our kids are really good. They need the best coaches. Well, okay, sure. But what if we also tried to raise the floor instead of constantly trying to cater to the top all of the time? So we've been we've worked incredibly hard with the clubs, and this is a major shift operationally, logistically, governance-wise, everything. It's going to turn everything on its head, and this is going to be a work in progress over the next little while. Melissa, I noticed you came off of mute.
Yes, sorry, there's just more questions, but I was letting you finish up. I probably could have answered this one, but didn't want to misspeak. Are there a certain number of practices, technical, tactical training determined for each tier or set by club basis? I know that there are some Canada Soccer guidelines kind of up to that
Yeah.
U13, but I wanted that's your space.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Melissa. So if we go back maybe to this in terms of grassroots standards, I'll try and zoom in on this slide. Hopefully, it's not super fuzzy. Can I go further? Yes, I can. You'll see there practice to match ratios, right? 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. Okay, that's what we would expect. Now, your clubs will all sell you additional programs, tech, academy, I don't know, whatever they want to call it, right? Where there's going to be additional sessions within that. Is it determined by tier? Largely, that's the way the clubs do it because the notion is that well, better players need to train more often, and better players need to train more often. Okay, maybe, but who says it has to be structured all the time? Why can't we give kids back a couple of days a week and let them go and have unstructured time? Let them be kids maybe a little bit. The clubs determine what their programming looks like. But there has definitely been, I think, some conversations around trying to standardize what that actually looks like on a tiered basis throughout CMSA. Now, when that gets done, I'm not too sure how you police, audit, monitor, assess all of that. I'm not sure either quite yet. But um, what what would be recommended would be looking to align to those grassroots standards as closely as possible. And also the acknowledgement and the awareness that more is not always better. Like better is better. And that needs to be really, really clear that I personally would want a coach that has 2 well-prepared sessions a week and frees up some time in my child's schedule to go and kick a ball against a wall, to play road hockey, to do something else, to sit on the couch and eat a bag of Doritos. To then someone who's having to be on the pitch 4 and 5 days a week, that has zero time to plan sessions, that is burnt out and exhausted. Like there's something about us wanting quality rather than quantity all of the time. So I think we as a culture, especially here in Calgary, we want more, 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 more. And it's this race to try and get ahead. It's a very capitalistic culture that is about empire building. And when we exist in that culture all of the time, like I think us as parents and families and players, we start to lose the actual joy and the excitement of training and actually competing. Um, I mean, I genuinely believe, and I don't know if the research backs this, but my gut feeling is that so many kids are becoming bored of the game by the time they hit 12 and 13, 14, because they've trained 3, 4, 5 days a week for 5, 6 years that they're just burnt out on it. They're not seeing the progression that they thought they would. They're sick and tired of it, and they just say enough. And I think that's a core problem. But we as an ecosystem and as a culture continue to fuel that because we want more and more and more and more constantly. So again, the clubs are pressured to continue to put more on. And I will tell you one thing, when I sit and I talk to technical leaders in this city, there's a common thread across all of them. Big club, small club, medium club, they're burnt out. They are tired. Uh, and the relentless schedule and pace of the game here in this city is going to lead to cooking some of our top people, and that's not going to have good outcomes. So there needs to be an awareness there, and I'm sorry that that's probably a massive rant that's well off topic or deviating a little bit, but these are some of the realities, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple of just quick ones here.
Yeah.
Tyler's asked if games get canceled due to it being too cold. Obviously, we all know that the weather in Calgary these last few weeks has been very up and down. So we do have field closure protocols that are in place. They are on the website. At this point, we are asking everyone to just follow those. To be honest, we've never canceled a game to date due to it being too cold. So I would be prepared to play based on temperature. And other than that, just follow the procedures and the protocols that are already listed on our website. With that being said, should by like Friday at some time, or should we wake up in the morning and just also, use a little bit of common sense, hopefully, there might be a discussion, but we would email everybody probably if we did anything outside of that normal protocol. But at this point, I definitely just say follow what's posted um, and expect to play at this point. The next one is about minimum number of kids on rosters. At the U13 level, I do believe that our minimum roster number is 11 players. And then Kevin says, and I'm sorry, this has been frustrating for you, Kevin. It's been a frustrating journey, paying for tier 1 to 3 assessments as per the club website and then being placed on a tier 5 team, which is deemed half the price by the club. Any advice on how to navigate this? It's funny, we do have these conversations. This is going to be my honest answer. Might not be politically correct. We do have these conversations in our office about how our clubs sometimes set up price ranges and how you're registering for certain tiers, but then through the evaluation process, maybe you don't end up on those tiers. Honestly, those are all set up individually by the clubs. We do think we've talked about, encouraging different fee models and how they could set that up better so that perhaps you're just registering with the club and then after the evaluation process or something like that, you end up with the additional fees depending on which tier you're in. I can understand why that would be frustrating. I would definitely go back to your club and have a discussion with them about that. And then I guess have you received money back since you've been placed in that tier 5 level? So again, I would have those discussions. But also, if you need to talk through it more, please feel free to call us at the office. We're happy to talk through many of those types of situations.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa, for jumping in on those. The I mean, we're Canadian to answer the cold question. I mean, our national team away strip is like all ice and black, and it looks amazing. And um, like the Ice Tekka is a moment in our game's history, right? Like, no, we play. Like, let's go, get the hand warmers out, and let's go and enjoy it. Yeah, this is a part of our game and our DNA here. So yeah, let's do this. Get the orange ball out and play in the snow. In terms of no refund is their policy. Melissa, you might want to take that one
Yeah,
offline and
sorry.
maybe look
I
into that a
actually
little
was
bit. Yeah.
just I was actually just responding to that one. And I feel like I need more information, Kevin, and maybe
Yeah.
we need to take this offline tomorrow. Because I'm not sure if it's a matter of like you've paid a full fee and then you're on a different tier, and so maybe you're looking for just money back for that difference from tier 5 to tier 1s to 3 that they have, or if you're looking to get out somehow or something like that. So I just don't think I have enough information to be able to really clearly give you an answer. Because most of our clubs definitely do have no refund policies for people who would like to change clubs after a certain date. But again, if this is like a difference in the price based on your player's placement, I'm happy to walk that through and get a better understanding of how that's been set up with that club.
Yeah. Yeah, not to silence anyone, just if it's a kind of individual case, I think it's really important that we can probably provide some more tailored guidance in a kind of offline setting and offline conversation there. Okay, people are still around, which is amazing. I can't believe you don't have better things to do on a Wednesday night. No offense, but again, if there's any more conversation topics, questions, issues, concerns, anything, again, I'll still stick around for a few more minutes. And if not, then I'm going to shut this down and catch a quick nap and then do this all again tomorrow. Really, the thanks goes out to all of you. Without all of you, this doesn't happen, and without your children, this doesn't happen. So we're indebted to all of you, and we work for you. So um, yeah, we want to make sure that we try and do the best job that we can. Okay, people have lost steam. I am going to hit stop sharing. I'm going to end the event for tonight, and once again say thank you. Um, we won't talk about anything good now. All of the good bits are in the last 2 hours. So you've hopefully you've caught all of that, and if not, this will get uploaded onto our YouTube page probably within the next 24-ish hours, and you can feel free to review it at any time. So we will see you on the pitch. And hopefully we'll see you at some of the multiple World Cup pieces that we're doing this year. And we genuinely thank you for your investment tonight and look forward to seeing you in this outdoor season. Okay,
Sorry,
take care,
I'm laughing
everyone.
at the Oilers time comment.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I, I've I have no clue what's going on in hockey playoffs. It's season start time. It's head down, don't look up kind of thing right now. So, okay, good night, everyone, and take care.